What's up, everybody? Welcome to a potentially new mini-series called Getting the Boot. And the idea behind this is if GW came to me and said, hey, look, we have a lot of models in our ranges, right? We need you to take a look at a particular faction and look at their model range and give to us your reason why a particular kit and even perhaps the unit itself may need to go. But at the very least, the kit. Why the kit needs to go? Do you think the unit can be salvaged, or should the unit go with it? That maybe the idea behind this is GW theoretically would be wanting to free up room to introduce stuff without having it be a complete overload, which we know isn't true. But anyways, that's the idea behind this mini series. Obviously, it's not just no fact behind it. GW isn't doing this. They wouldn't do it with me, but that's the idea behind this Getting the Boot little mini series. So, with that said, of course, share your thoughts in the comment section below. Agree, disagree, have a different choice, whatever. Go for it. I only have a few factions total in mind to do, but depending upon how this goes and what people think, I could, push forth and try it with some of the other factions as well. But I thought I'd kick things off a little bit differently. I thought I'd start off with Chaos Space Marines. I don't talk about them much, so I thought I'd give them some screen time. And I thought I'd talk about a particular kit from them, the Mutilator kit. This might be a kit you were trying to forget about. Maybe it's your favorite kit. I don't know. Share it in the comment section below. But the Mutilator kit is my pick, and the Chaos range has had a few I was looking at until A, I remembered Mutilators existed, and B, I saw the kit again. So the Hellbrute was one of the ones I was considering just because I missed the standard Chaos Dreadnought. I feel like we could have what the Hellbrute is, but still have Chaos Dreadnoughts. I don't know. I feel like you can easily just take a Chaos Dreadnought model and have it count as the Hellbrute, but it's just, I don't know. Anyways, I missed the Chaos Dreadnought as a concept, personally. And even though the Obliterator kit right now is fairly new, the Obliterators as they are now compared to what they were, I kind of miss their old selves. They kind of went really crazy with their corruption and everything. But I think it does a way better job than the Mutilator, which is why I am ultimately picking the Mutilator that needs to get the boot. So the Mutilator is a product of a time in which GW had this weird obsession with giving certain units that already existed a counterpart. And in most cases, it was giving, or pretty much all cases like this that I can recall, it was giving a ranged unit a melee counterpart. And then also during this time, when they introduced new units, they introduced both a ranged and melee variant of that unit. There would be two separate unit entries, and in some cases, two separate kits. But very clearly, a melee and a ranged variant of the same thing. I don't know why they had this obsession to do this, because in most cases, it felt like they're looking at it as this would be a cool ranged unit, and then maybe somebody in the back of the room was like, well, what about the melee players? And then went, oh, fine, we'll design something for the melee players too. Which isn't a necessarily needed idea, because plenty of melee players will take a good fire support unit to help it out. So you don't need a dedicated melee unit variant of that fire support that they would take anyway. But anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent. So the Mutilators are on the block for getting the boot. And also as a unit, I don't think they're needed, to be honest. I don't know of any crazy meta in which Mutilators rock the house, but it just feels like a unit that is unnecessary. Chaos has plenty of heavy hitters in the melee department, so I don't feel like Mutilators really are filling a gap. And what a Mutilator is a heavily corrupted Chaos Terminator who is obsessed with close combat, and the Warp took that obsession and twisted it to make them the embodiment of their obsession. But I think a Chaos Terminator squad could do a better job. But that's just me. The Mutilator entry is a real, basically a mirror of the Obliterator entry in terms of how the rules work for the weaponry and all that. But I'm not going to get bogged down in that concept or anything. I just wanted to point that out. So the Mutilators, firstly, they're not a multi-part plastic kit. They are a GW resin kit, which doesn't bother me. Some people have horror stories with that stuff. I never really encountered that horror story myself, but fine. That's not how I'm basing my thoughts on it here. But I just thought I'd point that out. However, they, as a kit, I think fundamentally drop the ball on how it goes together in the form of torsos and arm, or torso and arms, I should say. The arms have a huge gap, right? And you can see it when you're looking straight on at the model, whether from the front or the back. You can see this mile-wide gap for each arm from where it connects to. It is more of a dreadnought connection style than it is a Terminator connection style for an arm. You can look at Chaos Terminators, Chaos Terminator Lord. You can look at just Terminators in general. The torso and the arms are basically up against each other because you are wearing the suit, and they are still wearing this suit. It just looks unnaturally weird, not in a corrupted way, but in a this model wasn't designed right type of way for being an armored suit. It just feels weird. If that didn't exist, and what you could do is, of course, clip those things and then basically bring it flush up against the torso, and it'll look way better. But as they're presented, it just looks weird to me from the get-go that way. And then we get to all the details on the model. Now, the details aren't done horribly, meaning they are there, they're clear and present and picked out, as you would expect details to be on kits that are newer rather than older. This isn't the freshest kit out there. It's not the newest kit out there, but it's not old by any means. It's newer than the older Obliterator kit, but whatever. The Mutilator, as far as what it is to be a Mutilator, I think falls short. So, the one thing I will say about it is the stretched, tortured face concept on the models, I think they did a good job with. It looks unnatural, which is great. But all of the idea of being a fusion of flesh and armor plating together doesn't really work out too much for me. The blades coming out of the shoulder pads, weird. But that aside, it doesn't feel like they erupted out from within. It just feels like they were like placed upon the shoulder pads and glued there, if you will, or welded on, or whatever. Yes, there's some flesh bits around it to give the sense of the flesh metal blade concept, but it doesn't feel like it erupted through the armor at all. The armor isn't distressed. The armor isn't cracked or anything. The armor looks pristine, with the exception of there's flesh sticking on it for whatever reason. So, just by and large, all of the details I feel are mediocre at best. And you can see what they were going for with the power cablings, how the power cablings go into the flesh like they were once there, and then the flesh took over things, and the armor parts have flesh going on for it. Very little done with their legs, which is whatever, I guess. I don't know, just a point of reference. But ultimately, I think it falls a bit short, for sure. And I think this kit ultimately just needs to go. And I do think the Mutilator entry, if it went, I don't think there'd be that much of a riot in the streets for the Chaos players. I just feel like there are better melee options. Now, maybe looking at it as being a tanky option, I don't know. But I still feel like, Chaos went just fine without it, so I don't think it's necessarily needed. They're not that crazy in terms of being a tank either. So it's one of those things where Chaos Terminators would probably do a better job given their options for just hacking things apart. So I think the unit and the model needs to go. And on top of that, the reasoning why I don't think it works is because outside of the remnants of a chain axe or chain glaive as part of the arm, nothing really feels, outside of having jagged blade-like claws and whatnot out there, nothing really feels the equivalent of your arsenal, right? At least with the Obliterators, you can see, oh, those are bolters at one point. Oh, those were melter or flamer at one point. Or that was some type of weird plasma at one point. Or that's some type of chain gun and everything else. Like, you get a distinct feel that, yes, I see what these crazy mutated weapons on, that part of his body now came from. They were once this thing or akin to this thing, and now they are just these Obliterator's crazy weapon flesh hybrid. It works because you can make correlations and compare it to things in your arsenal. You can't do that with the Mutilator. The Mutilator just looks like a bunch of random claws and whatnot, and it doesn't really give you much of a semblance of going, oh, it's like it has a lightning claw and a power axe and a sword all grafted to the same arm in some weird, hideous, monstrous way. It doesn't look that way at all. It's just a bunch of random claws that even Chaos Demons don't really have similar to. It's a little odd for me personally. So that doesn't help it. And on top of that, what really doesn't help it is the simple fact that possessed Chaos Space Marines did a better job, right? If you're looking for a Chaos Corrupted unit entry in their range, the possessed, which are in power armor, granted, are that unit. They actually do a very good job of being Chaos Corrupted. They have the weapons turned into arms. They have the armor rent and cracked and fused with flesh. They have the whole backpack bit, which is the backpack and wings coming out of it, but it looks organic and weird, even though you can definitely tell it's an armored backpack. They did a very good job with that, with the heads, with some of the helmets turned into heads. Some of them almost look like a Slipknot character in terms of they're wearing a mask, right? They did a good job with that stuff, with the Chaos Possessed. And you'd think, okay, take the Possessed concept and make it into a Terminator form and you have your Mutilator, but that's not what happened. Something got lost in translation and we got the Mutilator we got. So that's my thoughts on the Chaos Mutilator kit. I think the Possessed are a much better version of that concept of being this fusion of flesh and armor, and in this case they're literally possessed by demons and kind of becoming that possession and that corruption. I think the Possessed do a better job of that. I think the Chaos Obliterator new kit, while still a little silly to me, does a better job of representing the whole idea of this fusion of flesh and armor and weaponry together than the Mutilator's kit did. And honestly, I don't really see a need for the Mutilator as a squad amongst the Chaos range. Again, it didn't feel like there was a particular assault-driven role that was kind of lacking in the Chaos range. I think assault is pretty well covered by the different interesting units of Chaos. So I feel like Mutilators were just an extra piece that really didn't need to be at the end of the day. That's just me though. So share your thoughts on the Mutilator kit and squad yourself. Do you think the squad should stay, but the kit needs an overhaul? Do you think the kit's fine the way it is and the squad's fine the way it is? Or do you think both need to go? Share it in the comment section. Thanks very much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy.